Hello, welcome to the first ipswichgigs.co.uk podcast. If you've not heard of Ipswich Gigs before, then I'm not that offended really, but we've been going since 2003 and we exist to promote anything that's original, alternative, bizarre, thought-provoking, or just generally cool in Ipswich. The purpose of this podcast isn't to showcase local music. BBC Introducing Suffolk do a brilliant job of that, especially with their newly extended show, so look up them if you want to hear what's going on in the county. This is more a case of just telling you what's going on locally. In addition to covering Ipswich, we also cover Bury St Edmunds, Stowmarket, Colchester, and several other places that are nearby. The remit's a little vague, but hopefully we kind of get you what you want. The reason the website still exists, we think, is because social media is powerful, but it's not quite as far-reaching as some people might like to think it is. So we're looking for other ways to get gig information out there. Obviously, we have the main website, ipswichgigs.co.uk, but in addition to that, you can add a iCal stream, I believe it's called, to your phone, so you always know what's going on. We have RSS syndication running from the site, if you know how to use that. So the podcast is just another idea. It's just another way of trying to get gig information out there. This is the trial podcast, so it's not yet part of the podcasting syndication world. So you're probably watching this on YouTube, which explains why there's a fairly dull video, because this is meant to be about sound, not vision. So I just thought I'd show a view of Ipswich, so why not? So anyway, buckle in if you've got a seat that's broken, or otherwise calm yourself. And I want to tell you what's happening in Ipswich over the next month or so, and hopefully play you a little bit of music. The idea is that it's not a radio show, but when you're looking at gig listings, the big part that's missing from it on any website is the ability to hear the bands. We know that if we've got a punk show, we've got a fair idea of what the bands are going to sound like, but there's quite a lot going on in this county, so I wanted to see if I can kind of whet the appetite of a few people to kind of get out to a few more gigs. Gigs are all very well attended, but they could always be better. We can always make things a little bigger, and great things are happening in Ipswich, Bury, Stowmarket, Colchester, and elsewhere throughout the county, including Long Melford. So without further ado, I'm going to start telling you what's on. And let's just see how this first podcast goes, shall we? As you can tell, it's the production value is pretty low, but hopefully they get the information across. My name's Andrew, by the way. My name's Andrew Culture, so I'll be your host for this podcast. If I get sick of my own voice, then I might ask somebody else to read this. So there we go. Let's get cracking. First gig to tell you about is Friday the 26th of October 2018 at the Smokehouse. It's Elephant in the Room, False Colours, James Morgan, Bad Luck and Lightning, and Double Awesome Man's Dad. So let's hear a little bit of the headline band. I found a song by Elephant in the Room that appears to be called Elephant in the Room, so isn't that tidy? Here we go.
Sour storm. There are elephants. There are elephants. There are elephants in. Elephants in. Right around. Won't you come with me?
God, that was a bit of an abrupt ending. Perhaps something I need to work on a little bit there. Anyway, that was Elephant in the Room. Also playing our really charming band called False Colours. God, bands probably hate being called charming, don't they? But they are. So anyway, let's hear a little bit of them. This is from a live video I found on their Facebook page. It's just the two of them stood somewhere nice and sunny, having a sing. There you go. This is False Colours.
I take it all on the chin if you give me Latinos, 'cause it's alright, so don't think twice. Some things are never gonna be easy, gonna be nice, gonna be nice.
So that was False Colours. I like them. I'm not supposed to be kind of putting any colour on any of this, so I'm going to be say that was a song, but I like that really. Also playing this Friday at the Smokehouse in Ipswich are, on the full lineup is Elephant in the Room, False Colours, James Morgan, Bad Luck and Lightning, and Double Awesome Man's Dad. Okay, let's move on to Saturday in Bury St Edmunds. So Saturday the 27th of August in Bury St Edmunds, we have the album launch for Sunscream's new EP. It's called A Big Red Lazy Sun. The album launch is at Vinyl Hunter Record Shop from noon till 5. That's the details we've got, so you might want to go and find the band on Facebook if you want more information, because I don't think they're going to play for 5 hours, although they're psychedelic, so it could be an extended wig out or something. Anyway, let's hear a little bit of Sunscream. So that was Sunscream. It was one of their older releases, because I'm not that well organised to have had the new one. And it's well worth popping along to Bury St Edmunds if you fancy seeing their matinee show, I guess it is, at Vinyl Hunter. Okay, so that's the 27th of October, so this Saturday between 12 and 5 at Vinyl Hunter in Bury. Now, this Saturday there was a metal all-dayer planned at the Manor Ballroom, so that's on the 27th still. It's been cancelled, so let's move along swiftly. But also happening this Saturday, which is the 27th, I'll probably say that a few more times, at the Smokehouse is Halloweener, with wiener spelt like either a baby pig or a sausage, depending on which part of the world you're from. Now, headlining is the Interesting Times Gang, then it's the McGregors, and then In and Out of Sleep. Let's hear a little bit of the Interesting Times Gang. There's a little snippet of the Interesting Times Gang, who are headlining at the Smokehouse this Saturday, 27th of October, 7pm to 11pm, because all gigs there appear to be 7pm to 11pm. Also happening this Saturday at Arlington's in Ipswich is a Frolics and Bangs event called Murder at the Gin Parlour. Not a gig, but something fairly interesting. It's a supper club mystery, apparently. Oh well. Also on the 27th, so this Saturday, 8pm till 11pm, Bob, Cullum and the Welfare Mothers at the Queen Street Brewhouse in Colchester.
Yeah, somebody heard Little Rock calling me back home again.
Oh, there's a little snifter of what Bob Cullum and the Welfare Mothers sound like. If you liked it, you can hear more of it on the 27th of October, 8pm to 11pm at Queen Street Brewhouse. I'm going to turn away and cough. Hey! What a lovely cold. Right, Sunday, 28th of October, we have Roma and guests at the Railway. It's an album launch, appears to be in aid of a charity. If you want to get along to that, then it's kind of great to see the Railway open again. Just speaking as an Ipswich lad, kind of tons of great stuff going on there. It's probably really obvious when I pause it and go off and do something and come back, isn't it? Anyway, this is just the experimental first podcast. Right, so 28th of October is what we're on, and we just talked about Roma and guests at the Railway. Now, also going on this Sunday, so the 28th of October, is a Spill Festival event happening at Ipswich Film Theatre. I thoroughly recommend Googling Spill Festival. These guys bring so much to Ipswich, and the festival's kind of live at the moment. there's absolutely tons going on, more than I could possibly kind of cover on Ipswich gigs alone. So I'm going to recommend you go have a look at the Spill Festival. I'm going to mention a few of their gigs as we move on. Also happening on the 28th, so this Sunday at the Smokehouse, is Reb Capper and Endnotes. It's a Reb Capper, not Red, apparently. Yes.
You were digital taking over. I am long way. Fuse was short. I ought to see the signs inside the cave. Do not feed the bears, for there is something.
Ooh, there's a tiny little chunk of what Reb Capper sound like. Supporting on the night is Endnotes. That's the 28th of October at the Smokehouse in Ipswich. Happening elsewhere in Ipswich, at Spill Central, is another Spill Festival event. Eve Libertine, Charles Webber and Penny Rimbold. I know it's not Rimbold. I can't remember how you pronounce his name properly. Forgive me. That's 8:30 till 10, and then 10:30 till 11, another Spill Festival event. English Heretic, Eve Libertine, Charles Webber and Penny Rimbold. Okay, either I've listed that wrong or those people are going to be really busy on that night. Monday the 29th of October, another Spill Festival event called Tell Me Again Why We Don't Need Feminism, which is a spoken word event being hosted and I guess compared and hosted, are they the same thing? Possibly. By Amy Wragg from Soapbox. Moving along. On the 31st of October, 30,000 Monkeys and Rad Pitt are playing at the Smokehouse. We're going to have to find a bit of Rad Pitt. They're an Ipswich band and they kind of rage. I like It's my intention when I sat down to make this podcast not to endorse or give an opinion on any of the bands that I'm going to play you clips of, because it's not up to me whether you like something or not. In fact, my opinion is of no interest to anyone, frequently not even me. But Rad Pitt are just pretty... Oh, I nearly swore. Can I swear on this? Can. It's my podcast. I can swear if I want. Anyway, yeah, that's Rad Pitt. If you like the Refused, Bosk, Botch... These arms is just music. If you have ears or like shouting and stuff, then yeah, go along and see Rad Pitt. They are supporting 30,000. Is that the right number? Yeah, 30,000 Monkeys at Smokehouse on the 31st of October this year, so 2018. Time there is listed on the Smokehouse website as 6 p.m. to 11 p.m. Smokehouse is normally 7 till 11, so I'm guessing there are more acts to be confirmed, but that certainly looks like a good one. And seeing as it's on the 31st of October, which is a Wednesday, I'm guessing that one or both the bands are on tour. I'm really keen to encourage more bands to come to Ipswich on tour. And a midweek gig somewhere like the Smokehouse is a fairly good sign that this is just a stop off for someone. So if we want to see more bands come to this town, these are the kind of gigs that I think it would be brilliant to support. And who doesn't love the Smokehouse, eh? Cool. Anyway, here we go. Elsewhere in the region, on the 31st, on Wednesday, we have Seymour Quigly playing some songs from an album he wrote many years ago. That's happening at the Hunter Club. So it's the 31st of October. 2018 at the Hunter Club, 7 p.m. to 11. Seymour Quigly playing songs from Import Export by Open Mouth. There must be a lot of songs because that's a long night. Either that or there are some more acts that I don't yet know about. On the same day, there's another Spill Festival. God, there's at least two other Spill Festival events. A day after, actually, on the 1st of November, there's a Spill Festival event focusing on David Lynch, and that's at the Ipswich Film Theatre. That's pretty cool. On the 2nd of November, there's something called the Maker Takeover happening at the Hunter Club in Bury. It appears to be kind of a workshop. It's happening all day long, and it's a workshop for anyone who wants to get involved in the music industry or creative industries. I love seeing stuff like this happen. It's no surprise that it's at the Hunter Club, which is incredibly nurturing and kind of cool place, certainly from the perspective of how I see it. Let's move along to another gig. So on the 2nd of November at the Apex in Bury St Edmunds, there's the 545. Now the 545 is the name of the promoters or the night, I think. What I'm trying to do on Ipswich gigs is where there's a promoter who has a strong identity, it's kind of part of the branding of any gig they do. So Washing Machine in Bury St Edmunds is a really good example of that. Or that noise equals noise gigs put on by someone in Ipswich. So I'm trying to put that branding as a part of the lineup. I put it in square brackets to differentiate, but anyway, enough of that gibbering on. So 2nd of November at the Apex in Bury St Edmunds is Connor Adams, Lost Lungs, Alter the Sky, Lunar Echoes and the Fifths. I think we ought to hear a little bit of Connor Adams, don't you? Yes, we do. Okay, here goes.
Ride through to Alaska. We could write a new chapter about our feelings and our dreams and all the in-betweens. Baby, you're my everything. And if you ever miss home, you'll always have my hand to hold. It'll be an adventure.
There's Connor Adams. If you like the sound of that, you can get plenty more of it by going to the Apex in Bury St Edmunds on the 2nd. I'm just going to consult with my calendar. Yeah, that's a Friday. Friday's all right, so you haven't got to worry about work the next day, unless you're one of the many people who does work on Saturday, in which case disregard everything I've said in the last 15 or 20 seconds. If you don't like the podcast so far, disregard everything I've said since it started. Anyway, so also happening on Friday the 2nd of November, our fatal Crowbar injury, playing at the Smokehouse in Ipswich. I think you know what you're getting with a name like that, but let's have a dig around and see if we can find anything to confirm whether Fatal Crowbar Injury are in fact a Baroque quartet of string players and harpsichord lovers. Let's see what we can find. That's the tiniest little bit of urinal fag butt, or urinal fag butt, depending where you're from, by Fatal Crowbar Injury. The reason it's a tiny little bit is the only clip I could find was of them playing live, recorded on a phone, so I don't want to give you much more than that because I think it's probably not a fair representation of them. But I've heard lots of very good things about them, and if you want to find out why lots of people like going to see them in Ipswich, head down to the Smokehouse on Friday the 2nd of November. That's Fatal Crowbar Injury. Happening on the same night across town at the town hall, the town being Ipswich, is quite remarkably Chris Carter and Cozy Fanny Tootie. So thanks again to the Spill Festival for bringing these quite remarkable people to this town. Slightly further round the dock basin at the Cult Cafe is JS and the Lockerbillies. Now they've been around for a while, and they with good cause, because they're very good, so I'll shut up and let you know.
Tax man, he's coming, but I've got nothing in the bag. I should find a way through to getting paid something fair, but I'm stuck here watching YouTube screaming, I don't care, 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 no, I just don't care. My motivator can't be repaired.
So that was JS and the Lockerbillies, who are playing at the Cult Cafe, which I think everyone calls the Cult Bar, but the Cult Cafe in Ipswich on Friday the 2nd of November, 9 p.m. till 11:59. At the same night at the Railway, we've got Medicine Hat, who seem to have a fantastic reputation, and if you like kind of southern rock, then you might like that. I'll tell you what, I'll play a bit for you and you can decide for yourself. Okay, now in that brave pause, I went away and tried to find some music from Medicine Hat, and I can't tell for the life of me whether they just play their own songs or just play covers. As you might know on ipswichgigs.co.uk, as a rule we don't list covers bands, but sometimes some slip through the net. Got nothing against covers bands at all, but there's just other sites, the Grapevine for example, who just do a really good job of covering all music. Here at Ipswich Gigs we're more about the original, the weird, what we used to call the underground, but is now very much the mainstream, and mainstream creativity creative music. So nothing against Medicine Hat, and we're still cheerfully giving them publicity, but probably not going to pay any music by. Also happening on the 2nd of November is another Spill Festival event called Teleplasmiste. Find out what that's about, go and have a look at the Spill Festival website. Seriously, there's so much going on in Ipswich that's because of Spill Festival. It astonishes me. I don't know how they do it. Right, next day, Saturday, the 3rd of November, we have a hell of a metal gig on at the Premier Pool Club, which isn't called the Premier Pool Club, but we've listed it as that because everybody knows where the Premier Pool Club is. There is Burden of Grief, Apophis, Decour, The Heretic Order. The Heretic Order? The Heretic Order. Let's start again. Burden of Grief, Apophis, Decour. These are all different bands. I'll tell you what, so they don't blend together. Band 1, Burden of Grief. Band 2, Apophis. Band 3, Decour. Band 4, The Heretic Order. Band 5, Elderseer. Band 6, Killer Corp. That's a lot of bands for one night. That could explain why it's starting at 5:30 p.m. and going on until 1:45 the following day. These gigs are put on, I think, by Darren, who was putting on a lot of gigs at the Swan until that closed, so it's brilliant to see him kind of still running and putting on tons of top quality metal shows. Let's have a little bit of Burden of Grief, shall we? Let's get a taste for what you can expect if you go along to Premier Pool Club on Saturday the 3rd of November. Here we go. This is Burden of Grief. It's not often you hear "I love you" in kind of metal these days, is it? Or ever. Apart from Sweet Leaf, I guess that had it in by Black Sabbath. Enough of this. Oh, so there's tons of metal going on at the Premier Pool Club on the 3rd of November. Also happening on the 3rd of November in that there, Bury St Edmunds at the very lovely Hunter Club is a gig. You may have guessed that because most of this podcast is about gigs. It's Kianos, The Glitter Shop, The Catch, Lemon Days and Groff. That's happening at the Hunter Club in Bury St Edmunds on Saturday the 3rd of November 2008, 6pm to 11pm. I mentioned the time because the Hunter Club and the Washing Machine gigs tend to cram on a ton of bands, so it's well worth getting there easy. And it's Saturday, so it's not like you're going to miss anything interesting on TV. It will just be Bullseye or Pop Black or some other show that probably hasn't existed for years. Anyway, should we hear a little bit of Kianos? Let's do that instead. That was Kianos. At least I think it's Kianos. In fact, I think Kianos is how you say their name. I'm not sure. I've not actually seen them myself. But that's Kianos and the Glitter Shop and the Catch and Lemon Days and Groff on the 3rd of November at the Hunter Club in Bury St Edmunds. In Ipswich at the Manor Ballroom on the 3rd of November is Jack the Lad, who are launching a new album, it says, of British classics. Not sure what that means. Also happening in Ipswich at the Smokehouse is a band called Rats, who again I think they're on tour. So it's Rats, Oscar Welsh, The Naked French and Nancy Dunnell. Starting time 7 o'clock. I just love that people are cramming on so many bands these. It makes things really difficult as a promoter and probably not that easy as a band, but it certainly gives people who go to gigs plenty to listen to. Let's see what Rats sound like, shall we?
Nobody understood the situation. Look what he's got himself into.
Rats, who I'm getting conflicting reports about. Someone says they're based in Suffolk. They sound like they're from Liverpool. Other things say they're from Liverpool. The singer certainly sounds like it's from Liverpool. But there you go. What do I know? Not a lot. Though I shouldn't probably admit that if you listen to this podcast. Oh well. Also happening on the 3rd of November in Ipswich at Spill Central is Gaika, and I don't know what that is, but it's a Spill Festival thing, so it's probably pretty good. Go look at Spill Festival's website. Much things happening. Now in Colchester at the Queen Street Brewhouse on the 3rd of November are Hunt for Titans, Rad Pitt and Twist Helix. We've already heard Rad Pitt raging the podcast earlier on, so I'm going to play you a little bit of Hunt for Titans. They have a hell of a pedigree. The people in the bands have been in some pretty astonishing bands before, and it's just kind of heartwarming when bands like this come together. So let's have a blast of Hunt for Titans, shall we? Yes. Stop answering yourself. To cut stuff off like that because I know it's building up to something. Sorry Chewy, sorry the boys, but that was Hunt for Titans, who you can see with Rad Pitt and Twist Helix on Saturday the 3rd of November at the Queen Street Brewhouse in Colchester in Essex. I need to take a breath. Right, also on the 3rd of November the Soap Girls aren't going to be playing in Ipswich. It's cancelled. The reason it's cancelled is the gig was listed for the Swan and the Swan shut down. I went past the other day and there's a big sign up saying for sale with no tie. I don't know if that's fact that something to do with the fact that the estate agent's lost his tie. No, I can't be bothered to make a joke about it. It's kind of cack that the Swan's shut. Anyway, over at the Railway, there's a band called The Start, which I've got them listed as ska. Somebody has been in touch and said they're a covers band. As I say, we don't tend to list covers. We tend to be a bit more interested if they're a bit punky or a bit scarry, but on the whole, it's not really part of the plan. Now, Pump and Grind have an event on the 3rd of November, which is a bit of a surprise considering Pump and Grind shut down quite a long time ago. But I guess the guys behind it are doing something else. And if you go to the Rep from 10 p.m. on the 3rd, you can sit there and enjoy Girls of the Internet, Halloween Acid, Drones Club, J-Funk and Jake Beautyman until 4 o'clock the next morning. So it might make you late for church, but other than that, it sounds like a blast. Right, Sunday 4th of November, Spill Festival closing party with a band from Botswana and Zimbabwe. Just seriously, just do it. Just look up Spill Festival. Right, this takes us all the way to the 8th of November. And now the 8th of November is a Thursday. And on that Thursday at the Smokehouse in Ipswich is a Switch Hop gig. Switch Hop gigs are always interesting, and this is no exception. Headlining is Sorrdes. I apologise if I say that wrong. It's Sorrds. Sorry about that, Liam. Rafiki, who's sometimes also listed as Rafiki Dub, and Slow King. Slow King's the only person I haven't heard of here, but Sorrdes and Rafiki, just both brilliant. Sort of electronica, interesting stuff, just brilliant. I'll tell you what, I'll shut me yap and find you a bit of Sorrdes and a bit of Rafiki to listen to. Hold up. Where'd I put it? There it is. There's a tiny bit of a track from Sorrdes' new EP, which is very, very good. Let's find a bit of Rafiki then. Bear with. Woo. Oh, didn't press pause, did it? Oh well, I'm going to press pause now. So a few chunks there from an EP released by Rafiki earlier in the year. I took that from his own Twitter thing, so those cuts are his, not mine. You can tell that because they're actually quite good and you don't hear me mumbling and accidentally headbutt the microphone every few seconds. Anyway, 8th of November, Sorrdes, Rafiki and Slow King at the Smokehouse in Ipswich. Also happening on the 8th of November at the Railway in Ipswich is Megan Bird, Emily Gray and Roma. All kinds of cheerful stuff there. Let's have a little bit of Megan Bird. Let's see what she sounds like.
I'll be here waiting as my affirmation. Being wasted. Your friends, your phone. That's all you'd ever need. I bite my tongue, but that just isn't me. I'm not.
That was Megan Bird, who's playing with Emily Gray and Roma at the Railway in Ipswich on the 8th of November. What do you think of it so far, eh? There's plenty going on around here, isn't there? Right, on the 9th of November, Miles Hunt, that lad from the Wonder Stuff, is at the John Peel Centre doing something he calls the Custodian Tour. On the 9th, same day, 9th of November, at the Smokehouse are the Baskervilles, who are one of those bands that feel like they're about to break through. They certainly sound pretty... Do you know what? There's really no point in me trying to describe any band, is there, when you can hear them. Yeah, let's do that.
I'll hold your hand and tell you all the things you wanna hear. Like I was fond of mama once to say the end is near. They're up the fucking months trying to hold me down. They're running out of time, but better do it now. 'Cause I'm thinking we are caught out to be.
Just a tiny bit of the Baskervilles, who are playing at the Smokehouse in Ipswich on Friday the 9th of November 2018, 7:30 to 11. I've only got the Baskervilles listed, but there's bound to be other bands. For the latest news, check the Baskervilles' own website or check ipswichgigs.co.uk. Also happening on the 9th of November over in lovely Colchester at the very nice Three Wise Monkeys is Ransoms, Horrible Dolphins, Elephant Jane and Toby Watson. The following day, on Saturday the 10th of November, we have the Duellers at the Corn Exchange in Ipswich. Also in Ipswich at the Smokehouse are These Are End Times, plus Doomed Bird of Provenance and Polly Preacher. It's actually an album launch for These Are End Times, and rumour has it might be the last ever gig. Just based on ticket sales alone, if you want to go to this one, I would recommend you get tickets fairly soon because they're nearly sold out. That's These Are End Times, Doomed Bird of Provenance and Polly Preacher at the Smokehouse. Sunday at the Smokehouse is Goldbloom, Rad Pitt again, and Pale Girls. So that's Goldbloom, who are on tour. Remember what I said, support the touring bands and more will come. Goldbloom, Rad Pitt and Pale Girls at the Smokehouse in Ipswich, Suffolk on the 11th of November. That's Sunday 11th of November, 7:30 till 11, because that's what they always are, almost always are at the Smokehouse. Right then, so what do we do now? Hey, what would you like to do? Fancy a cuppa? Hey? This has been the experimental first podcast for ipswichgigs.co.uk. It's taken a lot longer than I thought it would, and it's actually a lot longer to listen to than I thought it would be. I'd like to cover a month ideally, but before I invest a ton of my time in creating these things, I need to know if anyone's going to listen to them. So please do give me feedback on this podcast, or figback, just give me figs if you want, it's fine. Everyone needs to be regular, don't they? So there we go, Ipswich Gigs inaugural podcast. What did you think? Did you like hearing the bands? Does it convince you to go out? Do you hate me? Shall we get somebody else to read these? Should this music here be drowning me out quite like this? But don't worry, it's all going to come to an abrupt stop about now.